How's everyone doing? My name is Declan. I'm here with Evan, and you may know us from our podcast, the Save Entertainment podcast, but we're starting a new series here where we're going to watch cinematic treasures and talk about them. Evan, what was the cinematic treasure we watched today?
Today we watched Chris Columbus's 2015 masterpiece, and I mean that unironically.
Hmm.
Pixel.
Right.
2015, I think. 2015, yes.
Yeah,
Starring
so,
Adam Sandler, Kevin James, Josh Gad, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Monaghan, Brian Cox, Ashley Benson, Sean Bean, and Drain Barkowski.
what a star studded lineup we have there. Um, this is a movie that I want to tell our audience that we did give this movie our money. Um, watched it over Zoom, but of course we paid a good price to watch this movie, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Paid the ultimate price, and that was the watching of Pixels.
Yeah. So, all right. So, me and Evan are just gonna riff about. We just finished watching the movie probably about 10 minutes ago, so we're gonna riff on just what happened in the movie for like 15 minutes or so, and that's gonna be every episode of this series. Probably we'll do it every Monday, maybe. So if you want to see more of this, do all the YouTube things such as liking, commenting, subscribing. Evan, do you have any immediate thoughts that come to mind when you watch Pixels?
Well, the first immediate thought was I want this movie turned off. I guess we should go through what Pixels is,
Sure.
like its story. So Pixels follows the exploits of one. I don't know if we got a name for
His
him.
last name is Brenner. I don't know what his first name is.
Brenner. Okay,
Yeah, Adam Sandler's
Adam
character.
Sandler. So we start with Adam Sandler, and he's a young boy in the 1982, and he's a video game master. We know
Mm.
because we see him playing video games, and his friend, young Kevin James of the Super Games, gives him a little flyer that says, "Hey, let's go play this video game championship." In comes young Peter Dinklage, who is like a video game superstar,
Or is he?
or is he? Well, he is a super.
We find out later the truth about Peter Dinklage. We'll get into that when we get into it.
He's got like one girl on each arm. He's like
Mm.
surrounded by paparazzo. He is a paparazzi. I think paparazzo's one. Regardless, he's surrounded by him. And he comes in, he beats Little Brenner,
Sam Brenner. I just looked it up.
Samuel Brenner,
Hmm.
and then we find out via Dan Aykroyd, who was, as we learn later, was likely blackmailed into this movie by the producers who owned the last available case of Crystal Skull. And we find out by these guys that this match will be sent into outer space. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is a space museum or something. I forgot which satellite did it, but there is a satellite that went into space that has like just a bunch of information about human history for aliens to find. So, of course, Peter Dinklage cheats. He wins. This video gets sent up to space. And then years and years later, we find out that Kevin James is going to be the president of the United States in a scene, in a jump cut that, Declan, maybe you should describe this.
Sure. Probably the most abrupt time jump I've ever seen in a movie. There's, time jumps. You usually start with they're young. This is how these two characters that the movie's gonna center around meet. But I think this movie literally cuts from them being little to them sitting in a bar. Mind you, Kevin James is the president, and he's sitting with Adam Sandler in a bar who installs TVs for a living.
Yeah, he's so they're as children, they're talking about like who's hotter, Olivia Newton-John or Sheena Easton,
Yeah,
and we smash cut to them as adults, and they're also again just talking about female celebrities.
right.
Again, Kevin James is the president of the United States,
President, right.
talking with Adam Sandler, who is like a Geek Squad guy.
Hmm.
We
That's
cut
totally what he is. Yeah.
we cut to the TV. There's like a 9/11 joke going on,
Yeah.
where Kevin James is struggling to read a book.
Hmm.
We walk outside and we learn that he's a very controversial president.
He is. He aren't all presidents controversial.
It seems like this guy has done everything wrong since they're yelling at him that they can't afford college.
Well, I think the storyline here was Kevin James recently flew back from Cancun to deal with this video game crisis. So that's
Very
where we get the divisiveness.
save entertainment, of course.
Yeah. Hmm. Where does this movie really go? We get this exposition where we find out their childhood friends. Adam Sandler's good at video games, but gets beat by Peter Dinklage. Of course, Josh Gad is also in this movie. We should mention, and I don't. Is he their nemesis? Because Peter Dinklage is Adam Sandler's nemesis. So what's Josh Gad's deal?
They never, I mean, they go to him. He's just a kid. He's making goo goo eyes at this video game lady,
Right.
professes his love to her before, of course, the abrupt time jump.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then in the present, and this kind of ties in with Josh Gad when he goes to fix the TV of a young, recent divorcee. As a divorcee himself, he immediately sets to making his charming moves,
Right.
like telling her he hasn't brushed his teeth,
Hmm.
and going, "Whoa, humana, humana, humana,
Yeah.
hitting himself on the hammer every when he sees this woman walk
Yeah.
in, in her home.
And it's really love at first sight, as it is whenever a Geek Squad member comes into your home.
Right, especially when. So I mentioned this to Declan. I honestly believe it's more believable that Adam Sandler as Howie in Uncut Gems would get with Julia Fox than that these two would ever find each other.
Right.
Since, once again, the first time he talks to her, he tells her abruptly that he hasn't brushed his teeth.
Hmm.
The second time, he talks to her while she is crying and drinking wine in her child's,
Sippy cup.
yeah, from a sippy cup.
Hmm.
It has to be old because that kid's like what, 13?
He's a solid preteen, if not a teenager.
Yeah, so he's not drinking from sippy cups. That just means you got
You have issues.
lying around for that wine.
I never thought of it that way.
And she's by herself. I mean, can you just? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is,
Does anything in this movie matter?
they have a will they or won't they moment. They're about to fall in love until they're both called by President Blart.
Hmm.
Go to the White House where they learn that video game characters have been destroying the United States.
Hmm. I think if this were to happen under anyone's presidency, it would be President Blart, though.
Yeah, the really cartoon president where anything cartoony will happen under President Blart.
Hmm.
Every fictional movie takes place. This obviously it was made in 2015, which means that this just takes place in the future since Obama was president.
Yeah, they even mentioned Obama in the movie, so this is the post-Obama era.
Right. And also, I guess 9/11 didn't happen because of that one other scene.
Right, I guess not.
So this is in, I guess this takes place in the same universe as Watchmen, I think.
Or yeah, I would agree. Um, there's a lot of this movie we can really skip over, I guess, and it's not to save time. It's because what
Nothing
even happens in this? I mean,
into battles with the alien. We learn because Josh Gad has been sneaking into Adam Sandler's work van.
mhm,
We learn that the video that was sent away to space was taken to be a declaration of war from a
Yes.
bunch of aliens. I don't know why they don't then just send back a signal that's like, "Hey, that wasn't war." I guess they just haven't figured out how to reverse that. But
Hmm.
apparently, they can speak English, so they understand. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They have
Um.
a few fights. Uh,
Yeah. Really, just made up rules from these aliens, video game characters. I don't even know who the. It's not like they had a leader or anything. Like there's a big battle with Pac-Man, but then that's like the beginning of the third act of the movie, and you feel like that's how it would end.
this movie is very much, I think, a product of the Ready Player One, Family Guy, School of Entertainment, where the joke is that, hey, remember that other thing that you know? Now it's in a movie. But
Yeah.
it doesn't work here because this is definitely a movie that's aimed at like children,
Hmm.
but all the references are to stuff from like 35 years ago.
That's
So
what I was gonna say. This is I don't know who the target audience for this movie is because kids aren't gonna go see this movie and be like, "Oh, it's Pac-Man," because kids back in 2015 don't grow up with Pac-Man as much as Adam Sandler's, um, as you know, his youth was more influenced by Pac-Man.
they might get Pac-Man. I mean, that's like on the App Store, but they're not
Mhm.
going to get like Olivia Newton-John, and
Right.
it's going to be like, well, I don't care about this. Who the soundtrack is all 80s hits.
Yep. For no reason.
Yeah, because it's set in the present. I don't know why all the songs have to be from the 80s.
It was telling you how influential the 80s were and how cool the 80s were and video games were cooler back then because you couldn't start over. And sure, maybe I would agree with that, but this movie is not going to be something people from the 80s are going to watch and be like, man, my childhood rocked when I would play Pac-Man, because it
I
paints Pac-Man as a villain.
I have difficulty believing that anyone over the age of like, I think we're the only people above the age of 12 who willingly sat through and watched this movie,
I know.
who didn't have children or like younger siblings watching it with us.
Yeah. And
And
I should mention with the Pac-Man bit, they have the creator of Pac-Man in this movie, and they reference him. And Josh Gad starts speaking Japanese to him, even though he says he doesn't know how to speak Japanese. So take that with what you will. But it's not the actual creator of Pac-Man.
yeah, you think it'd be a cameo because they kind of go like, and introducing the
Mm-hmm.
creator of Pac-Man. And then like there's like a lot of reverence and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's revealed, and then of course he's quickly shooed away after Pac-Man eats his hand.
Right. Um,
But as we found out later, he was not this is not the creator of Pac-Man. We had
nope,
our doubts, and so we looked it up to make sure. That guy's not the creator of Pac-Man. That's
not
a
at all.
random guy that they just got. That's just an actor
Mm-hmm.
to play this character who is immediately dispatched. Couldn't they have just had that as a line? I don't get all the reverence around this non-cameo.
Yeah.
We should get to the Pac-Man thing. So I think that's what this whole conceit makes the least amount of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a movie like this isn't supposed to make sense, but when it's not funny or and the action's not very good, this movie's surprisingly boring for a movie about the world ending.
Yeah.
So the Pac-Man thing is they learn that day that oh, they're going to come down in the form of Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, "Wait, if Pac-Man's going to be the fighter, then we have to be ghosts." And
Right.
then Michelle Monaghan is like, "Hey, you don't need to be. We've got these ghost cars. We've got this road. You've got this row of Mini Coopers
Uh-huh.
painted to look like the ghost from Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And these Mini Coopers will be able to kill this alien."
It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense that they would have that immediately because they just learned it like a minute ago, and then they goes, "Oh, well, don't worry, we've got these ghosts that will be
Mhm.
able to kill these guys."
See, with this series here, we're getting on our high horses and we're criticizing movies that um, may not deserve as much thought as other movies we could watch. But that's the point, I think, here. Because what's the point of this movie? Um, the message of this movie is kind of like, don't not be a nerd, because we see all.
Of this movie is buy a Mini Cooper.
Right. And we see Josh Gad and Adam Sandler take down all the enemies as the strapping military ensemble stands idly by, showing us how you should be a nerd and you can do this. But I mean, after the whole Pac-Man fight, this movie keeps going, and it's for no reason. Why is Josh Gad singing "Tears for Fears" right now?
There's a mini subplot as well. We find out as we said before, we found out the truth about Peter Dinklage.
Yes, they break him out of prison.
Right, they break him out of prison. Do they say why he's in prison?
No, I forget. They probably do, but I wasn't listening.
So Peter Dinklage has grown up, the video game champ, the pinball wizard, if you will, from
Right? Yeah.
grows up and is now in jail. They get him out of jail and they're like, "Hey, come with us to defeat Pac-Man." Immediately he cheats and puts in a code for super speed. Which one? I don't. How do you put in a cheat code into a Mini Cooper? It doesn't have like an arcade panel. It's a car. It doesn't
Hmm.
have like an A B button on it.
Right.
It's a vehicle. And also, wouldn't the cheat code for speed work on Pac-Man? They're driving as ghosts. You
Sure.
don't play as the ghosts in the arcade. Now, of course, one could say, "Who cares?" And I believe that was probably a very commonly told sentiment on the set of this film.
Hmm.
Who cares? This is Pixels.
Yeah.
And perhaps that should be our takeaways. Who cares? This is Pixels.
Yeah.
This
It does
movie
there.
is 105 minutes long.
And what was the budget of this movie, Evan?
We found $129 million.
Well used dollars, um, wherever they came from.
See, all of these issues wouldn't be problems if not for the fact that the movie is like painfully unfunny.
Yeah, and
It,
that's what it's trying to be.
and when you watch like a movie like this, normally you're watching it in the theater, and so at least there's a bunch of people laughing around you. But me and Declan, we both watch this just by ourselves, and so they'll make a joke, like Josh Gad will like say something in a funny voice, and then the movie leaves in a few seconds afterwards, where they expect us to be roaring with laughter, but
Yeah.
it's just silence. It's just a joke. Silence. Adam Sandler
See,
will make some funny misanthropic banter.
us letterboxed McFedora hats don't understand that when Josh Gad is living in his grandmother's basement and is constantly yelling throughout this whole movie, that it's funny. And this is real comedy. And, um, your average Joe Schmo stand up special cannot beat this.
And we should also mention as well that Josh Gad does have a love interest in this
He
movie.
does in the third act of the movie. Well, it's set up throughout the movie, but it comes to fruition in the third act.
He is, yes, he's in love with the fictional Lady Lisa,
Hmm.
who is an arcade woman, who's a character in an arcade game he played as a child.
And he has a shrine in his grandmother's basement, equivalent to one Jamie Foxx may have for Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Pretty equivalent. I would say this movie is a spiritual sequel to Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Sure.
Just as confusing it makes a little bit less sense.
Yeah.
There's less death in this one. This is a disaster movie where no one dies and there's never really any danger.
Hmm.
Like there's a scene where like they attack the Taj Mahal and you think, "Oh, this will be neat." But no, they just show the Taj Mahal turning into pixels and then a guy gets abducted, but he gets saved in the end. So there really are no stakes to this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's generally it.
Oh, we didn't mention the end of the Josh Gad saga.
Yeah, we can mention that, and then we're going to get into our awards for the movie, which we're going to do at the end of each of these videos.
So right, Josh Gad, of course, Josh Gad is in love with this lady.
Hmm.
Eventually, she comes down as a human woman, not as a pixelated character like everyone else is. He falls in love with her. She's about to kill him, and he charms her with his Josh Gad powers.
Hmm.
Then later on, after everything is set back to normal, they defeat the aliens. Of course, spoiler alert: at the end of Pixels, the Earth is not conquered by pixelated aliens. No one died.
Conquered by President Kevin James.
Right, it remains in the hands of the despotic ruler Kevin James,
Hmm.
and Josh Gad is without his lady. He's really weirdly like openly depressed about it.
Hmm.
Like he's not even like an shucks. He's like, I never will feel happiness again now that this woman who I met less than an hour ago is gone. And then Cubert, who we forgot to mention,
Appears
the
throughout the movie
right when
as a
they
companion.
win a battle, they're allowed a trophy, and
Hmm.
that trophy is Cubert, who is a character. They speak in a little high pitched voice. They're like, "Give me snacks," and then Cubert miraculously transforms into Lady Lisa and
Uh-huh.
becomes a prize for Josh Gad to win.
Hmm. And
Now
Josh Gad starts a family.
they do as the credit sequence shows. It shows that Josh Gad and Cubert Lady
Hmm.
procreated and created a little race of human Cubert hybrids.
I guess so, but they just
Like
look like Huberts.
yeah, they look like Cuberts. That means that oh no,
I know. Yeah.
that's the horror of this movie. Actually,
Yeah. It is a big oh no. It's all a big oh no. But a fitting end, I think, to that movie. Anything else before we get on to the awards?
no. Let's get to the awards right now.
All right, so we have about 3, 4 awards. We'll see if Evan wants to come up with any on the fly. So I came up with um, who who is the person in this movie that we question what they're doing the most, their involvement, whether it's actor, director. I have my answer, Evan. I'll let you give yours before I do, though.
Who's doing the most? Is in who's to blame for this?
Whose involvement in this is the most questionable?
Hmm. Definitely the director, of course, Chris
Chris
Columbus,
Columbus. Okay.
director of classics like Goonies, is of course at the hands of this film, Pixel.
Hmm.
I think this is maybe all. I'm surprised that with all the '80s references, maybe we missed one, but I am surprised that he didn't reference more of his own work,
Sure.
everything '80s. But
Just plug himself.
right,
My answer for this is going to be Adam Sandler. And I know Adam Sandler has kind of made a career in these comedy movies, but this isn't really a comedy movie. Adam Sandler produced this movie and starred in it. So that means he's almost solely responsible, him and Chris Columbus, the tag team, for this movie. And, you know, a couple years later, taking a serious role like Uncut Gems. Um, just questionable career choice because I liked Uncut Gems. So this is no hate against Adam Sandler.
probably the second best after this, to be honest.
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna go with Adam Sandler. So Evan, What was the biggest missed opportunity in this movie?
Well, as I said before, no one died in this,
Yeah.
which making a big, large-scale disaster movie with a big ensemble cast, at least give us the Poseidon Adventure, the Towering Inferno. One of the biggest draws of all of those is that you get to see famous people die in wacky ways. You don't get that once in this entire film.
Hmm.
But the creator of Pac-Man gets his arm eaten by
Yeah.
Pac, which returns at the end. I also say every single joke in the movie is a missed opportunity in that there's never like a funny gag,
Hmm.
which is what you usually want in a comedy. So that's a bit of a missed opportunity right there.
Sure. I think my answer for this one would be there's not enough Kevin James. I want to know his day to day grind as the president. I want to be in the Oval Office with him more than we were. And besides Adam Sandler rolling up in his Geek Squad car right into the White House, we don't get to see much of his presidency. And his approval rating goes up at the end of the movie by a big amount. So I'd like to see what caused his approval rating to be down.
Why would his approval rating go up? I don't
Um,
understand.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
he really did nothing.
He did nothing. I don't know what he was
Absolutely,
doing.
he told Adam Sandler what was going on, and then Adam Sandler saved the world.
Yeah. All right. This is going to be our last one, unless we come up with any more we want to throw in here. Well, what's the best moment from this movie?
The end credit sequence, am I right?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I probably say the best is there's a brief moment when right before the big climactic battle when it looks like the aliens have won and they're really just destroying the town.
Hmm.
And so, fun fact about Pixels, it's based on a short film from I think 2008, 2009, maybe a little later, but a short film about pixelated aliens attacking the world. And that scene is basically a remake of that short film. And surprise, surprise, it is the best part of the movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Gad being in Adam Sandler's van. Just really spoke to me. That's it. I don't have anything. I don't have to elaborate on. That's just all I have to say about that.
There is a bit where they mention he's about to chloroform him.
Yes.
Then they kind of laugh it off, but that's very horrific.
I went to so many. I went to school with so many people similar to Josh Gad in this movie.
That's horrific that this type of human being has chloroform on him.
Yeah.
If like a person, a very different movie. Actually, I changed my missed opportunity. A different movie and a better movie is a movie about Josh Gad, who's obsessed with this fictional lady, and then he sees a girl who looks like the lady, and
A
he becomes
spinoff. Yeah.
her or something like that. It's like a psychological horror movie.
Hmm. Yeah.
This is a perfect film
This is a perfect film.
that we have just created. So please, Sony Pictures, if you're looking to recoup your losses after Pixels, actually, I don't know. Maybe this movie was a success.
Maybe they gained money. It's a realistic possibility.
Well, let's see.
Okay.
Office of 129 million.
$129 million budget. $244 million made at the box office. An
So
astounding
this movie
profit. Wow. So we obviously contributed heavily to that box office success. If you would like to see more of us reviewing cinema's treasures, let us know if you
I'd
watch
like
us.
to add one more award, I think.
Oh, sure. Yeah, real quick.
Most embarrassed to be in this film. I give it to Sean Bean in
Sure.
his little role as the British commanding officer. Again, I was surprised he didn't die. You put Sean Bean in your movie and you don't kill him.
Yeah. I think, Sandler, Kevin James, Josh Gad, They all know where they are. They all know they've embarrassed themselves quite a bit. So I'm going to say Peter Dinklage. Um,
Flying though, he was giving a pretty.
he was.
He's giving a pretty good performance. Adam Sandler's kind of mumbling the entire time, like he really doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't really care.
He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, we got to save the world." When he's driving in that action sequence, he looks like a dad backing up. He doesn't look
Hmm.
like he's about to save the world. He's just like, ah.
He's not inspiring. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. All right. So that's, let us know if you liked this, if you're watching us. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe. We'll have a new episode of our show every Friday. Of course, we get ideas to do stuff like this when we read our letterboxd reviews, which I posted yesterday. 13-minute clip from our show on Friday. We have our WandaVision review out, which we clipped out from our show. So just more stuff coming from all angles. So hope you enjoyed this if you watched, and we'll see you Friday.
Smash that subscribe button. About human history for aliens to find. Oh, I was receiving a call.
Oh no, we might have to edit that out, or we'll keep it in.